वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ वन्दे भौमापतिं सुरगुरुं वन्दे जगत्कारणम् वन्दे पन्नगभूषणं मृगधरम् वन्दे पशूनां पतिम् वन्दे सूर्यशशाङ्कवह्निनयनं वन्दे मुकुन्दप्रियम् वन्दे भक्तजनाश्रयं च वन्दे शिवं शङ्करम् वन्दे शिवं शङ्करम्. Welcome everyone to today's session of Shivanandalahari. In the last session, I think we have come so far as I think completed about 6 verses, or I think we were in the 6th verse. So far, we have in the past 5 verses covered the invocation, the essence of Shivanandalahari, and the guna of Seshwara, Parameshwara in his form. What are the attributes of Paramatma in his form as Lord Shiva? And why is he the object of adoration for Shivanandalahari, right? And we have also, following that, understood the limitations of the jiva, the sadhaka, who is not well versed in many aspects, but yet considering that you are the Pashupati, Pashunam Pataye Namaha, right? In Rudra, it comes. And we understood what does it mean to be a Pashu? What is the reference over here? And why is man kind of like, considered like you're a Pashu, right? We went through that. And in the verse that we started discussing, now Shankaracharya is addressing whom he calls as intelligent, Sudhihi. And we saw in that aspect his references to many of the metaphors and similes and examples, so to say, that are used in Nyaya, Tarka, right? All of these streams. In logic, basically, we apply a lot of arguments. Why do we do that? Man is innately trying to figure things out, make sense of everything. And one of that is like trying to understand how the universe operates, what is happening over here, and how do we make sense of all of this, right? So that is one of the key aspects of interest for a human being. In the course of that inquisitiveness. In the course of that inquiry, there have been several streams of philosophies and approaches that have been developed. And in India, especially the Shad Darshanas, we spoke about the Shad Darshanas, right? And as part of those Shad Darshanas, the Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, and Uttaramimamsa and Purvamimamsa, right? So, Purvottaramimamsas. All these six darshanas, how the interplay amongst them happens to kind of like, figure out. And as part of that process, we looked at all of these examples. Ghato va mritpindo rappi anurapi cha dhumogni पटो वा तंतुर्वा परिहरति किं घोर शमनम वृथा कंठक्षोभम वहसि तरसा तर्कवचसा पदाम्भोजम शंभोर्भज परम सौख्यम व्रज सुधीहि. So in this he says, hey Sudhihi, O intelligent person, ghato va mritpindah anuhu api cha dhumah agnihi achalah ghato va tanturva घोर शमनम परिहरति किम तर्क वचसा वृथा वृथा तर्क वचसेन कंठक्षोभम वहसि वृथा तर्क वचसा कंठक्षोभम वहसि लीव दैट शंभोः पदाम्भोजम भज तेन भजनेन तेन तरसा परम सौख्यम व्रज. तरसा, very fast, very quickly, parama saukyam vraja. So there are like two nirdeshanas that have been given over here. One, bhaja, vraja. So what is Shankaracharya talking about here? In the last class, we went through these aspects of, the ghata, the pot, mritpinda, clay or mud, right? The clump of clay, the lump of clay, or the mud from which the pot is made. There are so many intellectual arguments that people get into, asking like, is it a pot or is it mud or clay? Is it a pot? Is it clay? How do you distinguish? You look at a bangle. Is it a bangle or is it gold? Right? So we saw about the upadana karana, nimitta karana, agantuka karana, all of this. If we talk about just the lump of clay, depending on which perspective people are going to argue about, it becomes the lump of the clay is upadana karana, and then the potter becomes the nimitta karana. He is the creative force behind it. Now, if someone is looking at it from a maya pradhanyata, from a maya pradhana perspective, then maya becomes upadana karana and Brahma becomes the nimitta karana. But if another philosopher looks at it from the Brahma pradhanyata, Parabrahma, from his perspective, then they argue saying that no, it is Parabrahma who is upadana and Maya is the nimitta karana. We can continue to argue on all of these things till the end of days to come. Is it what is the composition of it? Is it anu? Is that like the most primordial kind of like an element that has been formed? They will say, no, it is neither clay, it is not, nor a pot. It is anu. It is all made of anu. This pot that you consider is made of clay is not even that. It is of anu. Bertrand Russell in his it's an amazing, outstanding book, The Enquiry into Meaning and Truth. And in that, Bertrand Russell, he talks about how we all start with a very base level of knowledge that is derived from our from our experience, right? We infer from our experiences. We hold a stone, you hold a piece of cotton, you hold a piece of sponge, and then we say, oh, the stone is hard, the sponge is soft, the cotton is like, it's just so weightless and all of that. And then we operate off of that assumption of that experience. But then he says, like, science then reveals another layer, that the hardness of the stone is not innate of the stone, it is because of these factors. Or the softness of the sponge is because of all of these factors. And then we understand, oh, so this is why the stone is hard or the sponge is soft. So even then, we can say that no, it is not this, it is not that, it is Anu. And then we talk about Dhuma and Agni Achala, the concept of how do we infer. Pramana, what is the proof? So there are different arguments that have been propounded, even for these lines of thoughts. There is Pratyaksha Anumana. Pratyaksha is like, okay, I am seeing it. I see it, and therefore I can vouch for something. I can vouch for a particular statement. I am seeing that the sun has rised, and therefore I'm going to say it is daytime now. Why? Because I'm seeing it. Pratyaksha. I'm experiencing the light all around me. Anumana, dhumogni rachalaha. Dhuma is smoke, Agni is fire, Achalaha is hill. So what is happening when talking about Pratyaksha Anumana? One of the examples they give when talking about Anumana Pramanya is there is a hill in the far side, and there is smoke coming out of the hill. So my doubt or my inference off of that is that there could be fire over there. Why am I inferencing that? Because in Pratyaksha, I have seen that when there is a fire, there is smoke. And therefore, something is happening over there. There is a fire over there. I have taken my past experience and I'm superimposing that to arrive at certain conclusions about the observation of the phenomena that I'm looking. I'm drawing what is happening over there. Patova, tanturva. Is it a cloth or is it thread? So you want to get to the root of everything. You want to understand, you want to go to the base of all aspects of phenomena that you are seeing around you. You want to argue whether this is a piece of cloth, or is it just an arrangement of threads in a particular manner, or even more basal, it is just all cotton. If it is cotton or whatever is the material. Is it a cloth or is it a assembly of threads? Right? And Acharya here says, all of this, Ghatova, Mritpindaha, Agnihi, Achalaha, Patova, Tanturva, Etat Sarvam, Ghora Shamanam Pariharati Kim. Ghora Shamana. Shamana here, in the context of this particular verse, is one who puts everything to rest. Who is the one who puts everything to rest? Mrityu. There is no distinction for him. You can be a multi-millionaire, you can be an utter pauper. He does not distinguish. When it is time, it is time. You can be living in North America, you can be living in Africa, it makes no difference. You can be a human being, you can be an insect, you can be an animal, a wild animal, domesticated animal, no difference. Everyone has to pass away. If you have been born, you have to die, right? Ghora, he has no mercy at all. Very fierce, very scary, right? Pariharatikim, all of these arguments that you are doing, continuously kind of like, trying to one up the other. Does this get rid of your death or the fear of death? Oftentimes, I have referred to the Pasha when we were talking about the concept of Pashu, and Pasha spoke about the three aspects of Bhaya, Shoka, and Moha. Right? There is fear, there is Shoka and Moha. Does all of this argument get rid of all of those things? Are you able to get past all of that? That is the fundamental question we have to keep introspecting on. And it is not just true about all of these logical statements. Not that there is anything fundamentally wrong in being inquisitive. There is nothing fundamentally wrong in being curious, in trying to understand. Absolutely. The whole aspect of even these forms of Deva Radhana, whether it is through Jnana, Bhakti, Karma, Vairagya, all of this emerged out of that inquisitiveness. Absolutely. But we forget what is the end point of all of this. What should be the ultimate goal of all of this? The ultimate goal of all the pursuit of knowledge, the internalization of all of this knowledge, the way we immerse ourselves and become one with all of this should result in ultimately Jivan Mukti. That is like being in a state of equanimity, constant in this life. It's extremely hard, but it is possible. There is a very famous instance that I'm sure most of you would have known or are already aware, where Ramana Maharshi, when he had to be operated upon, he was like, I don't need any anesthesia at all. He was talking, he was giving a discourse. The doctors were like, we need to get you out. He said, like, yeah, sure, go ahead, do it. I'm not going to stop you. You want to treat this body, do whatever you want to do, because I don't associate myself with this body. It doesn't matter to me. So like, we'll have to give you anesthesia. You cannot give a discourse. It's like, no. Why? Are you worried that it's going to hurt me or I'm going to be in pain? It doesn't matter. Continue, do what you want to do. So the doctors are like performing the treatment, and they are so scared. They're like, Swami, are you okay? And he's like, you look at me. Do you feel that I'm in pain? We get so agitated at the simplest of the factors. When someone does not agree with what we say, when someone does not accept what we want them to accept, our line of argument, our demands, and then we take it upon ourselves and we brood and brood and brood over and over and over again. Of what good is anything that is going to be done if at the end of the day it is not keeping you calm in the face of all of these upheavals that keep coming at us because we are in samsara? Akkamahadevi, in one of her vachana, she says very beautifully, she says, you constructed a house in the center of the market. ಸಂತೆಯೊಳಗೊಂದು ಮನೆಯ ಮಾಡಿ ಶಬ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾಚಿದೊಡೆ ಎಂತಯ್ಯ, she says. Having constructed a house in the middle of the market, if you're going to complain about, oh my god, there is so much of noise, there's so much of crowd, there is so much of like dust and all of these kind of things, what is the point? You built the house over there. So having been part of this samsara, knowing that there is always going to be differences, there is always going to be someone or the other who is not going to agree, who is not going to be perfect for us, there are always going to be pain. There is always going to be pain. There are always going to be challenges. Why don't we try to be calm and patient and resilient about all of these things? Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agamapayino nityam tam titikshasva bharata. Krishna tells Arjuna, tam titiksha, put up with them, have patience, forbearance. All of these feelings, they are always going to come and go, come and go. Agamapa, nityam, every single day. You will get elated, and then the very next moment, something else happens, like, oh my God, my whole day is spoiled. Everything would have happened perfectly fine the entire day. At the end, the food that you are cooking gets burnt a little bit. Oh my God, it's gone. Or somebody tells something, oh my God, they told this to me, my own entire day is spoiled. So easy for us to, like, fall off the cliff. What is the point of knowing everything, no matter how much stotras and this and that, everything that you might say and narrate, at the end of the day, if it is not giving you peace, or at least enable you to introspect and ask yourself, I'm doing all of this, how have I become as a human? Am I more kind? Am I more loving? Am I more forgiving? Am I more understanding of people around me? If I'm not even able to do that, of what point are all of these things? So while Shankaracharya is talking about just the death, but the death is not just the physical aspect of the body falling down. Every moment to moment when we are constantly suffering and complaining and beating ourselves up, we are dying every single moment to moment. Like, I'm more closer to death than I was at the beginning of the sentence. Every single pause, every single passing moment, we are inching closer and closer to death. Not to make it very morbid, not to become very dejected about it, but all the more, this being the case, how are we going to lead a more meaningful life? And what is more meaningful than being loving and kind and caring towards others? Even those who might end up, like, not agreeing with us. Being equanimous. Sthita prajna is the word that Paramatma uses in Bhagavad Gita. So here he says, Vritha kantakshobham vahasi. You're unnecessarily, for no point, in vain, you're torturing your throat, you're taking the pain, having spoken, arguing, oh, there is this flaw in that logic, there is this thing. Oh, look, I am the one who disproved this thing. I am the one who disproved I defeated his claims. I am so great. I need all of these titles in front of me, As soon as I enter, people have to say some 4 times, they have to say Shri, 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 Shri. Nyaya Tarka Visharada, right? Tarka Praveena, and this and that, all great titles. And the more that accumulates, we feel so great about ourselves. But have we felt peace? Are we prepared to come face to face with Yama and say, I'm ready? That is what we pray to Mrityunjaya, right? Mrityor Mukshi Yamamritat. Deliver me from this fear of death, so that when the time comes, the way a cucumber detaches from the creeper, may I also just as naturally as that disconnect myself from this. Does it? If it does not, then all of this is pointless. Then what to do? Shambhoho padambhojam bhaja. Pray to the lotus feet of Shambhu. He is the one who gives you everything that is auspicious. And the most auspicious thing is fearlessness. If we can get rid of fear, we are not going to stop ourselves from doing what is right. When fearlessness comes with discrimination, then you are on the path towards liberation. The discrimination of what is Nitya and Anitya, what is Satya and Mithya. And having the courage to go by that, to go by that discrimination, to go by that knowledge and tread on the path of Viveka towards Paramatma, right? That is what is being adhered to over here when he says, Shambhoho padam bhojam bhaja. Kintena. What will happen out of that? It's a directive that Shankaracharya is giving. Bhaja. He's telling. It's a direction, like sing the glories of Shambhu's lotus feet. Just the lotus feet, because that one feet will deliver you from everything. Parama Saukhyam, the most uh, inexhaustible source of bliss, the supreme bliss, Paramananda, that contentment, Parama Saukhyam, Vraja, you will obtain it, you will go towards it. How? Tarasa, very quickly you're going to head towards that. But we have to do it the right way. What is that right way? He talks about that next. Because if you have to bhaja, he also has to explain how to do that bhajana, no? Is it just about like sitting and like, singing bhajans and clapping and glorifying all of it? So in the next verse, he says, no, that is not so. There is more to it. What is it? Manaste padabje nivasatu vachastotrani phanitau करौ चाभ्यर्चायां श्रुतिरपि कथा कर्णनविधौ तव ध्याने बुद्धिः नयनयुगलं मूर्तिविभवे परग्रन्थान् कैर्वा परमशिवजाने परमतः तव ध्याने बुद्धिर्नयनयुगलं मूर्तिविभवे परग्रन्थान् कैर्वा परमशिवजाने परमतः. हे परमशिव, मनः ते पादाब्जे निवसतु, वचः स्तोत्रफणितौ, करौ च अभ्यर्चायाम्, श्रुतिः अपि कथाकर्णनविधौ, तव ध्याने बुद्धिः निवसतु, or buddhihi tava dhyane nivasatu. It's fine if you arrange in both ways. Nayana yugalam murti vibhave nivasatu. So you can add that word nivasatu in all of these. Ataf param, paramataha, param ataha ataf param. Beyond this, paragranthan kaihi janami, paragranthan kaihi jane is the question. So what Shankaracharya is saying is, hey Paramashiva, he is the supreme Shiva, he is the supreme doer of good, he is the supreme giver of all that is auspicious to this entire creation. And to that Shiva, we are praying. When I am doing your bhajana, what should happen? He starts with, look at this, that he starts with mind. Manaste padabje nivasatu. He first says, when I am doing your padambhoja bhajanam, what should happen is my mind, manaha, te padabje, that which I am praising, that which I am glorifying, that which I am praying to, my mind should first of all go and dwell in that. We can be singing amazing stotras, but our mind will be somewhere else. We can be saying amazing stuffs, giving a very wonderful narrative, but then in my mind, I could be verily thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch today, or how much people are like enjoying my talk. What is the point? So the very first thing he says, my mind should first of all be focused. When the mind is focused, then every other sense organs that he lists, one after another, now he starts listing all the sense organs. They will all start aligning. If the mind is not focused, the ears are hearing something, we are thinking about something else. The moment whatever thought comes, if it is related to food, your mouth starts watering. That is what is coming to mind. That is what is more important at that point in time. Okay, as soon as the Naivedya is done, when am I going to get to eat all the delicious food that I have prepared under the pretext of Naivedya to offer to God, because at the end of the day, I'm the one who's going to eat it. So he says, first thing is manahate padabche nivasatu. Once the mind has calmed down, once the mind has stopped jumping from here to there to there to here, and then has focused itself on your feet, what will my tongue do? My speech, everything that I say, vachaha stotra phanitav. We had already come into this word, right? When in the previous one, he said, Aham gana phanitav na janami. I don't know to sing. But here he says, when the mind is so focused, all my speech is going to be focused in singing your glory. Right? And at that time, what is the hand doing? The hand is abhyarchayancha nivasatu. Abhyarchana. I'm going to keep offering, worships, prayers, whatever it is going to be done. in serving you, basically, right? Abhyarchayan cha, when that cha is being used, it basically means that etc., etc., etc. Everything, anything and everything that you can do with the two hands, my hands should be busy completely. All the time, my hands are going to be busy worshipping you, serving you. If you're talking about puja archana, right? Bathing you, doing the archana, doing the puja, putting the bhasma, all the ways in which, any which manner that my hands can be engaged in serving you. That is what that cha in the end refers, etc. Abhyarchanancha. Shrutirapi, what about my ears? Katha karnana vidhau. In which vidhi? Vidhi is process, right? How it has to be done. Kim akarnana vidhau, katha karnana vidhau. It has to keep on thinking, it has to keep on listening to the glories of your stories, to the stories that sing your glory. Everything that is going to be talking about Shiva, may my ears be always listening to those things. The stotra phanana that I am doing, the songs, the stotras that I am going to be singing, the ears will keep listening. When all of this is happening, the buddhi, right? Nishchayatmika buddhi, the intellect. Samshayatmika manaha. Nishchayatmika buddhi, that buddhi, tava dhyane nivasatu. My intellect also should be focused, must be firmly nivasatu. Nishchayena vasati nivasati. Nishchayena vasati. Firmly, absolutely, no doubt. Without any doubt, my intellect should be focused, should be meditating on you. And what about my eyes? If I have closed my eyes, inside me, I should be constantly gazing at you who is residing within me. And if I have my eyes open, I should constantly be looking at your form. Murti vibhave. Vibhava is something that is glorious, something that is extremely outstanding and magnificent. Such is the form of Shiva. Whether we look at it, something that is anthropomorphic, that has all of these divine attributes, right? Or we are going to conceive of that as the very Chaitana that is inside me, the Atma, the Chaitanya which is inside me, and I'm going to behold him in that glory. Whatever way that I want to, I just want to, my eyes should always be fixated on that. Murti vibhave nivasatu. So when my eyes are completely immersed in you, right, where that there is no difference between the one who is seeing and and what is being seen and the act of seeing, right? Drik, drishya, drashtara. What is being seen, the act of seeing, and the seer, all of that becomes one. So when my eyes are completely immersed, they have completely, all my senses have become one with you. In this state, ataha param, beyond this, paragranthan kai hi jane. What way shall I try to know about all of these other aspects? Patova, tanturva, ghatova, mritpindaha. I want to know the logic. I want to know this. I want to know that. I don't have anything that I can give to understand all of these things because my manaha, my buddhihi, My Nayana, Shrotra, Yugalam, Vachaha, everything has become surrendered to you. Everything has become one with you. So, what do I have? I don't have anything now to understand everything else that is going on. It is not very surprising. Is this possible if one were to ask? Look at the lives of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, or look at the life of Ramana Maharshi. Over their course of time, they did not sit and like do Shastradhyayana, all the Vedas, Puranas, Shastras, Shaddarshanas. But they were so immersed in their experience that whatever they said that I'm experiencing this, the Shastras vouched for that experience. The Shastra said, yes, yes, that is true. It has been mentioned over here, it has been mentioned over there. So for a Siddha, for an enlightened human being, there is no need for looking for, proofs elsewhere. The Swatmanubhuti, all the other Shastras will align themselves. That is why in the symbology of Dattatreya or Kala Bhairava, when we talk about Shiva, where he goes, the Vedas, Shastras, everything taking the form of animals like dogs. Why? Because the dog, wherever the owner is going, the dog sniffs and goes. That is why the symbology of dog exists. That any direction in which they go, the Shastras will sniff and try to go and reach, because the Shastras, none of these Shastras, be it Vedas, Puranas, anything, can give you the experience of what that Paramananda is, what that Parabrahmanubhuti is. It is like a dog that is sniffing here and there and thinking that this is where my owner has gone, and so I'm going to follow this path. It is so um, almost very humbling that, oh my God, like something that is so hard, how are we ever going to be able to attain? All of this thing that we are doing, is it really going to lead me to him? That is when ultimately that aspect of surrendering comes into picture. That we have to ultimately bow down and say that it's not in my capacity. You please help me. So, how then will I ever be able to look at anything else when all my senses are completely lost in you? Sorry. So now, okay, I want my mind to be completely immersed in this. But why is it that human beings are so deluded? Is the question. So we said, like, none of these other intellectual vain pursuits of intellect, which is not ultimately going to result in us arriving at that supreme realization or that supreme experience of Paramasaukya. And therefore, we need to completely surrender all our senses, our mind and intellect into understanding, thinking constantly about that power. Why don't people do this? Is the question. Why are people constantly running after something else? This God, that God, some other God. Why? For this question, he says, यथा बुद्धिः शुक्तौ रजतमिति काचाश्मनि मणिः जले पैष्ठे क्षीरं भवति मृगतृष्णासु सलिलम् तथा देवभ्रान्त्या भजति भवदन्यः जडजनो महादेवेशं त्वां मनसि च न मत्वा पशुपते यथा बुद्धिः शुक्तौ रजतमिति काचाश्मनि मणिः जले पैष्टे क्षीरं भवति मृगतृष्णासु सलिलम् तथा तथा देवभ्रान्त्या भजति भवदन्यजडजनो महादेवेशं त्वां मनसि च न मत्वा पशुपते says, Hey Mahadeva, Hey Isha, Hey Pashupate, Shuktau Rajatamiti Buddhihi Yatha Bhavati. So in this, the constants to everything is Buddhi Yatha Bhavati. The way we decide with surety, right? We decide with surety. Buddhihi Yatha Bhavati Shuktau Rajatamiti. Buddhihi Yatha Bhavati Kachashmani Manihi. बुद्धिः यथा भवति पैष्टे जले क्षीरं मृगतृष्णासु सलिलं तथा जडजनः त्वां मनसि न मत्वा त्वां मनसि न मत्वा, not namatva. In a single word, namatva becomes like, praying to you. There is a very beautiful way we can interpret in both ways, but here it is na matva, not considering. Bhavadanyam deva bhrantya bhajati. Someone else other than you. Deva bhrantihi. That is deva bhranti. Devaha iyam iti bhrantihi. This is God. This is God. So that's a bhranti. Bhajati. Deva bhrantya bhajati. Let's start this by understanding. So, what the main purport of this shloka is, O Mahadeva, O Lord of all the creatures, Isha, the Lord of all beings, Pashupate, just as one can misunderstand the seashell, the oyster's shell, to be silver, or misunderstand a piece of glass or an imitation stone to be an actual gem, or one who confuses rice flour that is mixed in water to actually be milk, or like the way we conclude that a mirage over there is actually water. In the same manner, in the same way, Jadajanaha, these foolish men, they mistake various beings, anyone other than you. Anyone other than you is mistaken to be God. And then they pray to them. Deva Bhrantya Bhajati. Namatva, Tvam Namatva, without considering you in their mind, ye te jadajanaha bhavadanyam bhajati. Right? Bhranti is a word that comes up over here. Bhranti is delusion, and it is the foremost significant play of Maya. Maya has two outstanding powers. These powers, they are called avarana and vikshepa. These are the two powers that they say Maya has. What is this? What is Avarana? Avarana is encompassing, covering completely, right? And Vikshepa is morphing it, transforming it. What do we mean by that? Let's understand this Avarana and Vikshepa and Bhranti, right? The interplay of Maya in all of this. If we were to understand that a little bit, there are a lot of amazing similes and examples that Shankaracharya talks about right in this very stotra. But before getting into that, the most common that everyone has heard of is, right, the Sarpa Rajju Nyaya, right? Rajju is rope. There is a piece of rope that has fallen on the floor somewhere, and we mistake that rope to be a snake. Or somewhere while walking somewhere around, there is a rope that has fallen. We look at it and we mistake it as a snake. What is happening over here? First, there is Avarana Shakti of Maya, which has masked, which has covered up completely the true reality of what that Rajju is, right? So we are not seeing the Rajju. We are not seeing that it is actually a rope, right? We are not seeing that. So there is Avarana that has been covered off. Is it just covered off? Is it a fact of, is it a matter of just not seeing? No, no. It's not just that. Even more, when you see it, there is a superimposition of something else that has happened. What is that superimposition? That superimposition is that rope does not look like a rope. First of all, right? There is a superimposition, a transformation where in our mind we consider that to be a snake. So both of this has to happen, and then we are now in Bhranti. And when the Buddhi becomes Bhranta, when your intellect becomes deluded, oh my goodness, we get so stuck up about things. This is what is right. This is what, there can be 10 arguments, there can be 10 actual proofs against it. But no, we are not going to believe it, because that is how deluded, when the intellect becomes deluded, it is extremely dangerous. Because then we become so stuck up about everything. And this is what you see happens in a lot of dogmatic, very sectarian beliefs. We become so dogmatic about things. Even though there can be other arguments, they're like, no, I don't want to listen. Everything else is not true. That is the power with which Maya can really encompass you. Avarana and Vikshepa. And we see that interplay happening in every single example that Shankaracharya talks about in this verse. He says, Shuktau rajatamiti, yatha buddhihi shuktau rajatamiti. Shukta is oyster's shell, right? In which you find the pearl. If you are at beaches, right, and you see these seashells, these seashells, the oyster shells that have been fallen over, when they are open, and I'm not talking of when it is kind of like, face down, but when it is on its back, right, the inside, in a bright sunlight, it glimmers. Let's say you're very far off and there is like a seashell that has fallen, on its back. So the inside of the shell is glittering in that bright sunshine. We think that, oh, there is silver that has fallen over there. Look, it is shining, right? Again, go back to that Anumana. Like, I've seen silver shine in the sunlight. So whatever has fallen over there, it is shining, therefore it is silver. That's why you have the saying, right? All that glitters is not gold. Kachashmani. So shuktam, shuktav, rajatam iti. Right? We mistake an oyster shell to be silver. What else do we do? Kachashmani manihi. Kacha is glass in Sanskrit. Ashma is stone. So there are two ways in which we can interpret this one also. It can either be like, a solid, like, proper solid glass, right? If we want to fool someone into thinking a glass to be a diamond, you just have to make it like, pretty like well set glass with nice cuts and everything, and which is going to glimmer. And then you can easily fool a person to thinking that these are diamonds. And similar way in which you can like take some imitation jewelry, right? They make all of these imitation stones on all of that to put on all the necklaces and everything. Those are the ones we are going to always like be looking out for. Kachashmani manihi. So there we don't see it for what it is, but we mistake it. One, we don't see it for what it is, and then we also mistake it to be something else altogether, totally different. Kachashmani manihi iti, right? Iti buddhihi yatha, again bhavati. Iti buddhihi yatha bhavati. Tathaiva paishte jale kshiram iti buddhihi yatha bhavati. If you take rice flour and mix it into water and keep it in a glass jar somewhere, people will be like, oh, there is milk in this, right? A very a very kind of like poignant reference to this you will find even in Mahabharata, right? When Dronacharya was extremely poor, the description of his poverty is given in Mahabharata, where his wife Ashwathama comes and says, oh, all the other kids, they are having milk. I also want milk. Nobody is giving me. I want to know what the taste of the milk is. And so Dronacharya's wife, she mixes rice flour into water to make it like appear that white color, and gives him that mixture, saying that this is the taste of the milk. So have it. Here is milk. That is when Dronacharya is so moved and he goes to Drupada to ask for all of that. And then you know all of the rest of the story anyways. So the way rice flour, water mixed in rice flour can be mistaken to be milk. Tathaiva mrigatrishnasu salilam. And when there is like a very hot weather and you see the road and the far, especially, you can very easily spot, oh, it looks like as though there is water on the road, right? Because you see the reflection. That's a mirage. In the desert, you will see that, right? We mistake a mirage to actually be water, a source of water. And we are so convinced that yes, and then you start moving towards it. Tathaiva jadajanaha. Look at the combination of this word, jada janaha. Jana, I mean, they are people. Jada is inert. The meaning of the word jada is inert. But are people inert? Really? If we were to ask, like just looking at them externally, they're always moving, they're doing something, they're always involved in some action. So why is he calling them jada janaha? They are not inert. But is he referring to just the externality of the inertness of the action? No. He's talking about that viveka, that buddhi, the buddhi that has become deluded, the buddhi that has lost its discrimination of what is real and what is unreal, what is truth and what is untruth. That is as good as an inert buddhi. That is as good as an inert entity, because nothing that is going to deliver me from this life, from the samsara, can come out of it. It is inert because there is nothing good that is going to come out of a deluded intellect. And it is so tough to guard ourselves against these delusions, because we wouldn't even know. That's the dangerous part. They say, right? Someone who doesn't know, who knows that he doesn't know, someone who knows that he knows, that's great. Go approach him. He's a jnani. Someone who knows that he doesn't know, he's a sadhaka. Good. You need to, train him, bring him up, groom him so that he can have that potential. There is someone who doesn't know that he knows. Remind him, right? You already know this. But there is the most dangerous is the one who doesn't know that he doesn't know, but behaves as though he knows everything. Ultimate pinnacle of delusion. I don't know that I don't know, but I'm going to behave as though I know everything. Stay away from them. That's the saying that goes, right? These people, these foolish men, is what Shankaracharya addresses them as Jadajanaha. These foolish men, Tvam Namatva. Manase Tvam Namatva, in their mind, in their thoughts, in their entire being, they don't seem to consider you. Or in the other way, where I said Namatva, these people, they seem to worship you, but in their mind, they are already thinking about somebody else. Yo, I don't know whether Shiva is going to give me something or not. As a backup plan, I'm going to go there also. You never really know. It's better to put application, 10 different places, right? So one of the things that comes to mind a lot is when when we were writing our exams, especially in engineering and second PU and all of that, right? The board exams. We were told that, the question paper is going to be for 125 marks, and you need to, answer for 100, right? And some of the really very intelligent ones, including me, right? What we were never really sure how much marks we are going to get. So as like extra insurance, we would answer like more than 100. Sometimes we would end up answering for all 125. And that was a great source of pride for us. We were like, oh, even if I lose the marks over here, I'm going to get the marks over there. Any which ways, I'm going to get 100 out of 100. And we were so convinced of this. We were so sure that, yes, this is the strategy. And the futility of all of this, it's funny because it is so true. If we were to introspect, this is what we do with everything, with every relationship. Oh, if the father is not going to say, okay, I'm going to approach through the mother. I don't know whether this is going to work out. Let me go, have a couple of others also. I don't know whether Shiva is really going to give me everything. Let me also approach somewhere else, because maybe it will work out over there even if Shiva does not give. These kind of delusions are going to only stop us from the path of sadhana. It is only going to make it so much more difficult, because there is no clarity And when there is no clarity in our mind, we can never be sure of anything. Viveka, that discrimination is most important. And in these Jadajanaha Twam Manasichanamatva, they don't consider you in their mind. They don't they don't even think that it is actually Shiva. Shiva is the one. Shiva is the one. They don't even think about that. Bhavadanyam Deva Bhrantya Bhajati. Bhavadanyam Devam iti Bhrantya Bhajati. Someone else other than you, they kind of like delude themselves into thinking that, they are God. And without considering you, they keep, praying to those false gods, so to say. So from here onwards, he gives a few other references to what else do these Jadajanaha do. And we will look at all of that in the coming sessions. And I think today, I think it's already past 10. We can stop our session at this point. Thank you. Any questions at this point, please let me know. Hariniji, please.
Uh, Namaskara, Praveen sir. In the last verses that you explained, we understand Shiva is the ultimate God. That's why we all are here on
Right.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
But even while doing Shiva Puja, we do Ganapati Puja as a Vigna Nivaraka.
Yes.
It's not necessarily because we are seeking something else from Ganapati.
Right.
And also, few people worship Shakti as a divinity, and
Yes.
Shiva himself considers Shakti is half of him. So,
Yes.
by worshipping Shakti and Shiva and Ganapati as a beginning, are we trying to seek something else? You think I mean, the interpretation that was made, am I understanding it right?
It's a very, very nice question, Hariniji. I'm so glad. I was hoping someone is going to bring it up, and I'm so delighted you brought it up. The true answer to that question can only be given by you,
Okay.
because I might say, right? I also, yes, if you see, I have, like, I do both Devi Aradhana and Shiva, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But in my mind, I know, am I seeing them as two separate ones? Am I seeing them as distinct?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I, in my truest sense, praying because there is insecurity within me?
Okay.
Right? We know the truth of what we are doing. If we are doing it saying that, Ganesha,
Mm-hmm.
going on the path of knowing Shiva, please don't create any obstacles. Please remove all obstacles in my path because I want to go towards Shiva. Hey, Jagannatha, you are the creative force behind everything. You are the Parama Maya. You are the Bhavatarini. I want to go towards Bhava. Bhavani, take me towards him. And the beauty, and we have to, like, oh, that's the kind of like a very a philosophical or a metaphysical approach to that question, because we know in our heart of hearts, what is the motive behind this. But if we look at historically, now I'm again and again, I'm going to try to bring a bit of like a historical aspect to these things.
Yeah,
And
let me stop
also,
you here for a minute.
yes, yes,
So, if I'm worshipping Shakti, it could also be motiveless.
absolutely, yes, absolutely, At that point in time, there is no distinction between Shiva and Shakti, no?
Okay. Okay. So as long as there is no wrong motive, you are saying
Nishkama
Ishkama.
puja.
Yeah.
Yes. Ahaituka. That is why I said,
Nishkama bhakti.
yes.
Okay.
Ahaituka bhakti, ahaituka priti, nishkama, all of this. I have no desire. And Shiva, that's why he says there is no difference. You do Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati, right? In Saundarya Lahari, that's what Shankaracharya says. It's the same
Yeah.
Shankaracharya,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
same Shankaracharya, when he is writing Sivanandalahari, he says this. And then when writing Saundarya Lahari, he says that the people go to different gods and they pray without understanding that you are the one who is actually giving the boon through them. Right? The same verse, same
Yeah.
meaning comes in Saundarya Lahari also. So the question that comes is like, why is Shankaracharya saying this over here and that over there?
Yes. Yes. The very first stanza in verses in Saundarya Lahari is
Yeah.
Shiva Shakta Yukto. So they both, if they are
Only when Shiva is
separated,
with Shakti, he can do something.
yeah,
Otherwise, he
only
is
with
just a Jada.
Shakti's power he can do something.
Correct,
Yeah.
right? So, why is Shankaracharya saying this over here and saying that over there? Not even this. Like, even if you consider Moha Mudgara, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. He's saying, hey Mudhamati, Bhaja Govindam. He's like there, he's saying Govindam Bhaja. Here is saying, like, Shiva is the one, pray only to him. There he says, Shakti, you are the supreme. Like, people don't understand that you are the one who is actually giving and they pray to. Why all of this? So there are two perspectives here again.
Mm-hmm.
In literature, and I'll talk about the topical one, then we will go deep, right? In literature, there is always something called as when the when the object of your adoration is something and you are elevating it, there is something called as naninda nyaya. Naninda nyaya is saying that, you know my mother is the most wonderful woman in this world. By saying that, the interpretation is not that every other woman is like, terrible. No,
Okay. Okay. It's how you interpret it.
exactly. What
Okay.
is the bhava behind it? So in literature, this is extremely important, especially when we talk about stotras and stuti granthas, or stuti compositions, stotra compositions. In all of this, the fundamental aspect is when you are adoring, a mother, when she is like, praising her child, she will say, oh my God, my Chinna, my Ranna, you are the most beautiful child in this world, right? Does the mother mean that every other child is bad? No, absolutely not. She is just saying that for my child, for me as a mother, my child is most precious. So the bhava that a bhakta is going to have is that my Lord, whom I am adoring, is my Lord. He is the one for me. But here is the thing, when it becomes, where does that delusion set in? The delusion sets in when Shiva is like this only, and this is what is Shiva, nothing else. I'm not going to accept anything else. But true sadhakas, truly amazing, like enlightened beings, they will say, where is Shiva not there? I might be looking at Krishna, but I am seeing Shiva over there. I might be looking at Ganesha, but I am seeing Shiva over there. I am looking at Durga, but I'm seeing Shiva over there. Where am I not seeing Shiva? Where am I not worshipping Shiva? When I'm talking to somebody, if there is the Dvaita Bhava that comes in, when no, this is not Shiva, this is Shiva, then immediately we have lost.
Okay,
That is
very
why,
good interpretation. Thank
that
you
is
so
why,
much.
yeah, no worries, absolutely. That is why I said the true answer for that question can only come from us.
Yeah.
And the other aspect to this is, if you see historically, right, in if you go way beyond, like I'm talking about the third, fourth, fifth, even till Shankaracharya's arrival in the landscape of India,
Mm-hmm.
the concept of Shiva, and especially if you go look at the all ancient, extremely ancient temples, when there is a Shivalinga, there was no need for anything. And even the structure of Shivalinga, we will talk about it in one of these days. The way, if you look at these ancient, extremely ancient temples, like I'm talking about Kedarnath and all of these, right? Or Gokarna and places like this, if you look at the Shivalinga, it is not the typical Shivalinga that you see, which has like, this kind of like a structure, right? There is like a cylindrical structure on the top and all of this,
Yes, even in Kashi,
right?
by looking at, we can make
Exactly.
out
Yeah,
Nandi is built way after the temple has been in
correct.
existence there. Yeah,
Correct. And even that Shivalinga that you see in Kashi, the form, the structure of it, you will see is very different.
right. It's formless. Yeah,
Correct. Not only formless, but not even the kind of traditional form. Look at the, like, this is, there's a, I'm very curious about these things, and that's why I go digging around a lot. But look at how it is in Somnath. Look at how is it in Mahakaleshwar, right? Ujjaini. There is this sort of a structure. But then look at what is in Kedar, what is in Kashi. So, what is this difference? So, this is where it is important for us to know that historically, if we go way back, when there was a Shivalinga in the temples, there was no need to have any other deities around it, because the structure itself, they say every bhag, there is a Brahma bhaga, there is a Vishnu bhaga, the Pani Pitha, right, the Shakti bhaga, everything. If there is one Shivalinga, everything is already there in it, is the interpretation, is the underlying message over there.
okay, okay.
So therefore, when I am worshipping Shiva, like everyone, it is kind of like putting water to the root of a plant. If you put water to the root of the plant, the water is going to go everywhere. So the same way, if I am with Shiva, if I appease Shiva, if I am praying to Shiva, what is the need to pray to anybody else? Because everything is Shiva.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if
Right.
you want to look at it from the perspective of Vishnu, everything is Vishnu. We will come to that also, because further on, in fact, if we look at it again from all the way back from the Vedic times, there is one thing in, right, in Chamakam, you will see Agna Vishnu is a word combination that comes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
will see eventually, and Shankaracharya also talks about it, Ambika or Parvati is Vishnu.
Right. Okay.
So nowhere a true sadhaka, when we reach that stage, no, we cannot differentiate. And you will see this again and again, that is explained in different mythological stories. In the most common one that comes to mind is, like, in Pandharapura, where Panduranga is there, right?
Mhm.
There was a Parama Shiva Bhakta who was a wonderful weaver of cloth, and he was like utmost staunch devotee of Shiva. And people said no one can weave anything much better than him. And so for Panduranga, if we need to give him that, you know, a cloth worthy for him, he is the one who can do it. But he's like Paramashiva Bhakta, what to do? So they go approach him, they say, please, 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 like, you know, can you do this? He will say, but I have decided not to look at anything apart from Shiva. So what to do? They say, okay, I'll tie my eyes. You know, the reality, truth, and all of that is different. But the
Mm-hmm.
essence of this story is very beautiful. That's why I like it. He says, I'll tie my eyes and I'll go to the temple. I'll enter the Sanctum Sanctorum because I need to measure, right? I need to take the measurement.
Right.
Yes, 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 please come, please come. So they tie his eyes, and then he comes and he starts, like, you know, touching the form to take the measurements. And he feels like, I feel as though I'm touching Shivalinga.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets so like shocked. I say, I thought I was here at Pandrapura in the Pandharpur temple, but when I'm touching, it feels as though I'm touching Shivalinga. And then immediately he opens his eyes, and then he sees, then it's Panduranga over there. The essence is there is no distinction when we are at that stage.
Okay. Okay.
You know, so all of this again and again in all of these stotras, that is the thing that we need to always remember. Otherwise, definitely I would get this question a lot.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we read Vishnu Sahasranama and it says, oh, this is the one Sahasranama, you do this,
Ultimate.
everything
Yeah.
else is fine.
Yeah.
In Lalita Sahasranama, though, they in the Phalashruti, they say, you know, these people without understanding, like they say Vishnu Sahasranama, but out of that, Shiva Sahasranama gives this much of, benefit. But even more than that, Lalita Sahasranama gives this much of benefit, but people don't understand this and they keep singing Shiva Sahasranama, Vishnu Sahasranama. And I would always question, why is this so?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Who's
Yeah.
true then? Who is true? Correct?
Yeah. That's right.
But ultimately, when we go forward beyond that, when we go dive deeper and deeper, we'll come to know that, oh, yes, what is not my Aradhya, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I can see him or her everywhere, that is when I am at utmost peace.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You have wealth of knowledge. We are so fortunate we are
No, no,
listening
I'm
to you.
so delighted. It's always a pleasure when someone questions because I honestly I enjoy because it also helps me more kind of like, it's kind of like the gandha that you have to like, keep rubbing. The more it does, it also helps me a lot. So thank you so much for this question, Harini ji.
Thank
Yes,
you, sir. Thank you.
there was another question, I guess. Any other?
ఫ్రమ్ మై ఎండ్
Praveen,
క్వశ్చన్స్ అయితే లేవండి నాకైతే. బట్ సెషన్ ఈజ్ ఎక్సలెంట్.
Thank you.
మధ్యలో నేను కొద్దిగా ఫోన్ చార్జ్ అయిపోతే మళ్ళీ ఐ రీజాయిన్డ్ అనమాట.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Absolutely no problem at all. Vidya Garu.
Yeah, Praveen garu, excellent session అండి. And I think Harini garu well said. You're a wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
And like an ocean, so if we carry a pot, we get pot filled. If we carry a big barrel, it's barrel filled. So yeah, the more we have such type of questions, I think the more knowledge we gain. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm gaining a lot from all of this. The more and the more I'm thinking, the more and the more yeah, it's a deeply emotional journey for me going through each of this, and I'm so eternally grateful for this group for asking me to do this and giving me this opportunity. So thank you so much. Thank you.